Last year, a battery company sued content creator Stephan for defamation, claiming that they incurred significant losses based on a review that he published on his YouTube channel. For context, Stephan has a popular channel for off-road enthusiasts. He was sent batteries for testing, and so he reviewed them over a 3-year period, and during his tests, he recognized that the batteries did not meet the warranty standards that the company claimed. So after testing, he published his review, as he should, along with all of his findings. And let's just say that the company did not like what was said, and so they sued him. He published a short video on his YouTube channel about the lawsuit, saying that his legal costs could be upwards of $200,000. And so he was able to raise roughly $90,000 through a GoFundMe to fight the dispute. And 10 months later, in March of 2025, the courts eventually dismissed the case, stating that the company could not sue. Second example, in another reported case earlier this year, a popular Instagram creator's phone was SIM swapped. The hackers gained access to the Instagram accounts, and they posted a deepfake video that drove followers to a fraudulent link designed to harvest credentials. What a nightmare. Most creators don't really think about the risks that they incur whenever they actually publish content. Creators face numerous risks, such as cybersecurity threats, various lawsuits, injuries while on set or while filming. And while some creators have the money and the funds to be able to hire attorneys and defend themselves, many others unfortunately don't. So in this video, we're going to talk about one of the ways that creators can protect themselves in these types of situations. And unfortunately, these incidents aren't really uncommon anymore. We've all seen dozens of issues in the news with creators facing a variety of legal situations over the past decade. But before we get into it, my name is Rustin. I'm a financial advisor and I work with content creators. I've worked with hundreds of creators from the brand side in a prior career, and I deeply understand the financial and emotional challenges that creators face when it comes to their business and their finances. As a reminder, this video is for educational purposes only. It does not constitute legal, investment, insurance, or any other kind of professional advice. Please consult with a professional, and for more information about me or my firm, you can view information and our disclosures at 80percentfinancial.com. So back to the topic at hand, one of the key areas that I work through with my clients is in risk management. And it sounds like boring jargon or something that you would hear from the mob until you realize the potential benefits. Risk management is a kind of a broad term that guides things like physical and device security. It covers public relations, investment decisions, and the topic of today, which is insurance. Now, before your eyes just completely glaze over because I mentioned the topic of insurance, I'll very plainly break down the primary types that apply to content creators and how they protect you. And for the record, I do not sell insurance. I make no money from clients when they purchase insurance. My entire perspective here is to reduce risk of things occurring that may negatively impact my clients' abilities to ultimately meet their goals. So let's start with the basics. What is insurance? Most of us are used to having car insurance and perhaps home or renter's insurance, and some people have life insurance or other types, but what is the core purpose of insurance? Insurance, at its most basic function, simply transfers risk from yourself to someone else. In most cases, this is an insurance company. The insurance company assumes much of the risk should someone file a claim, and you pay money to be able to transfer that risk to a third party. Now, what you pay for that risk reduction is called premiums. These are typically monthly, twice a year, or annually. Another way to think about it is like a backup hard drive, but for your finances. So if the first drive fails, then you have some kind of fallback mechanism to prevent you from losing all of your data, or in this case, all of your capital. Also, if you like these analogies and awkward segues, I do appreciate the support on the videos and subscribe to see more content about financial planning and business management for content creators. Was that bad? Yeah, it was kind of bad. All right, so how does this actually work? Insurance companies make money by pulling thousands of people's premiums into a giant bucket, and based on statistical data, they set the premiums to slightly exceed the amount that they expect to pay out in claims. Put simply, if I were an insurance company and I collected $1, and based on statistical analysis, I know that I will most likely pay out 90 cents in claims, then I can reduce the risk from my customer and also still be able to make a small profit. And this works because they know that not everyone who's paying premiums will have a claim all at the same time. So they can pull premiums from a large group to be able to pay out individual claims as they occur. And for those of you with insurance, I'm sure that you've noticed that rates have continued to increase over the past few years. Much of this is caused simply due to repair costs. So if it used to cost $1,500, let's say, for a certain repair to your car, and now that same repair costs $3,000, then the insurance company needs to increase their rates in order to be able to keep the pool of money available for those claims and to still be able to take a small profit. Insurance is a really cutthroat business with very small profit margins. And so the majority of the rate increases that we are seeing are simply due to the amounts that are being paid out in claims. Insurance is important, not just in a personal setting, like for your car or your home, but also in a content creator setting and a business setting. So here are the primary types of business insurance that most apply to content creators. The first that we'll discuss on the list is what's called E&O insurance. E&O stands for errors and omissions. For the purposes of this video, we're just going to cover two basic types of E&O insurance that most commonly apply to content creators. The first is for services. This is generally called professional liability insurance. Let's just say if you do consulting or brand deals and you give bad advice to whoever you're consulting and they're caused harm from some of the advice that you give, then you could be sued. Professional liability insurance helps cover the errors that may have been made or the omissions in your work itself. Now, the second type of E&O insurance that we'll cover, and the one that is more broadly applicable to content creators, is what's called media liability insurance. This is a specific type that covers things like defamation, which is what the issue in the lawsuit was with Stephan, libel, slander, invasion of privacy, and even copyright or trademark infringement within your content. And going back to Stephan's case, depending on the insurance policy and the exclusions, the insurance company may have covered Stephan in his lawsuit, and those legal fees may have been paid by the insurer rather than him having to stress and worry about trying to raise funds in order to be able to fight the lawsuit. And for the record, I'm glad that he won. I'm also sure that he was severely impacted financially, mentally, and emotionally from that 10 or 12-month process. And psychologically speaking, it's far easier to deal with the mental strain and the tactical decisions that you have to make in those situations when you're not wondering how the heck you're going to pay for attorneys. And the same applies in personal finance. If your car is involved in a crash or a water pipe bursts and floods your house, it's easier to deal with that situation when you know that you have insurance and an emergency fund to help cover those costs. Going back to media liability insurance, those policies are commonly available with various limits, often including $1 million or more per claim. As far as what is appropriate to each creator, that really depends. It depends on the type of content that you make, the level of risk with your content, the size of your reach, and any contractual requirements that brands or sponsors may have when working with you. The next type of insurance that we'll cover is what's called general liability insurance. Think of general liability as insurance that provides protection in the physical world. For example, if a podcaster flies in a guest and someone trips over a cable in the studio and gets hurt, this is the type of insurance that could cover those incidents. Or let's just say if a light stand falls and damages something at a rented filming location, then general liability would cover that as well. And while it's best practice for all businesses to have general liability, it's even more important for creators with large teams, studios, and those who do a lot of recording offsite. Another form of insurance that I want to cover that applies to creators is what's called cyber liability and privacy insurance. So if you click on a phishing link and a hacker holds your channel hostage, or in the case of the Instagram creator, causes harm to your audience, then cyber liability insurance might kick in at that point. Now, you can purchase this type of insurance as a standalone product, but oftentimes you can add this to one of your other policies as what's called an endorsement. An endorsement essentially is an extension of a policy to include something that is not normally covered through that policy. Through some insurance providers, media liability insurance may also be added as an endorsement to certain policies. And when you go this route of adding an endorsement, it's typically easier and it can be more cost-effective to purchase coverage as an endorsement rather than a standalone policy. But it's important to work with an insurance professional to ensure that the endorsement has both adequate coverage and is as thorough as a standalone policy. Many times endorsements aren't quite as thorough as what you would get from a standalone policy. And so just make sure that you aren't missing some component of a policy that you really need by just adding it as an endorsement. Also, we won't really get too much into the weeds in this video, but there's also things like auto insurance if you have a vehicle that's owned by the company. There's key person insurance, disability insurance, and even product liability insurance if you have, say, a merch line and someone is injured from a product that you sell. Now, most creators that I speak with use a third party for their merch line, and many of those third parties have this type of coverage already baked into that third party agreement. But it is something to keep in mind and to ask any third parties that you're working with on merch, whether this type of coverage is included or whether that's something that you should be picking up for yourself. Also, I'm not saying that every creator needs every type of coverage that I've listed, but most creators are underinsured in some form, either in their personal finances or for their business coverage itself. When you're shopping around for insurance, I highly recommend working with an independent insurance broker who understands your situation, your business, and can guide you through each piece individually. Also, an independent broker can shop for the best policies and rates across many insurance providers, which typically helps you get better coverage for the amount of premiums that you pay. While it may not necessarily feel good to spend money on something that is as intangible as insurance, it really can pay for itself with peace of mind, knowing that your business won't go under from some kind of unexpected scenario or legal dispute. Content creators are sued quite frequently, and most of the time we never hear about it. And even the times that we do hear about it, we never really hear about the mental or the financial strain that it causes to creators. And so by thinking through the risks that may impact you and your specific channel and taking steps to mitigate those risks, you can reduce your stress, which helps you to focus more on what you do best, which is creating. If you have any questions, I would love to hear from you in the comments below. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you all in the next video. Cheers.